Hello and welcome back to Climate TV with me, Eduardo Gonçalves. Today I'm joined by Mark Way, Swiss Re's Head of Sustainability in the Americas. Mark, thank you for talking to us today. First of all, Swiss Re is one of the founder and executive members of the RE100 initiative, the group of companies that's pledging to switch all of its electricity use to renewable energy. Can you tell us why you were one of the first to make that commitment?
I think there's a lot of different reasons, but I think categorically what we see is the need for some kind of progress in the climate area. We have to see progress. That progress will clearly not happen, in my opinion, without the full support of the private sector. RE100 for us represents a wonderful vehicle just to demonstrate that support, and at the same time not just demonstrate it, actually act to start putting in place a series of measures which will reduce the carbon emissions of many corporates around the planet. I mean, that's the aim, is to attract as many of these corporates as we can and send a very clear message to the policymakers that we want to see action.
How does Swiss Re see the role of the insurance and reinsurance sector in helping major businesses mitigate the risks associated with climate change?
I mean, climate risk, weather risk, call it what you want, that is a big issue for the insurance industry. But it's also a big issue for society, obviously. What we see continually is that when major weather events take place, the vast majority of those costs end up being paid by the government or eventually the taxpayers. So there's what we call a big protection gap. We see an opportunity to help make that gap somewhat smaller if we're able to design and create the right kind of solutions that match the needs of the people that are currently fully exposed to these kinds of impacts. So we see a business rationale, but at the same time, by implementing those kinds of products, we see the opportunity to enhance resilience. I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, making society more resilient to these kind of impacts.
And how do companies in your sector see the opportunities of capitalizing on the development of a low carbon economy?
I think, again, it depends very much on your industry, but without doubt, we are shifting to that low carbon economy. So the companies that are preparing for that, are thinking about that, building that into their strategies, are going to be the ones that benefit most. But I think clearly there's a big opportunity for new products, new services, investment opportunities. Really, I think that shift to a low carbon economy offers numerous types of opportunities. Just a question of identifying them and actually acting on them.
And how do they see the role of risk management in business strategy, and particularly using renewable energy, for example, as a way of helping to mitigate against some of those key risks?
Yeah, I mean, the whole area of managing that kind of risk. I mean, these are risks which face every company in different ways, or will do over time. And I think it's just something which is probably not appreciated enough, not just in the business world, but in the broader public sector society, that when we start thinking about developing new areas, investing in long-term projects, we're not taking enough consideration of climate risk. And until we do that, we're going to continue to cause ourselves problems which will only impact in the future. So I think we really need to start integrating climate risk considerations into these kinds of situations where we're thinking about the long term, we're thinking about how we want to develop. I mean, that can be a long-term business strategy, that can be a long-term development strategy for a country or a city or a town for that matter. We have to start thinking about what the environment, what the climate is going to be like for the duration of that investment, not just what it's like today, because it's going to change.
So specifically, how is Swiss Re helping companies, to adapt to future market trends and indeed weather changes, extreme weather events, and so on?
I think we help in a number of different ways. I mean, what we are about as a company is helping our clients manage risk. It's as simple as that. Now, those clients can be they can be insurance companies, they can be corporations, they can be the public sector actors like governments, cities, states, NGOs for that matter. And really what we try to do on the one side is help them understand that risk, and then help them identify what would be the kind of measures which could be taken to best manage it. And when we start looking at what those measures could be in the insurance context, then we have quite a range of different products, if you like, that we could offer. So you can look at things, for example, from the macro level. How do you help governments deal with severe weather impacts? You can look at that from the micro level. How do you help improve financial inclusion? How do you get the kinds of insurance products and services that you and I take for granted, how do you get those into the hands of people that don't have that benefit in their lives? So how do you expand that market? But you also look at things like renewable energy. The renewable energy is a relatively new technology. It's got a different risk profile. It's got different challenges. If we can help people manage those risks better, then we hopefully can start to de-risk those projects and make them more attractive as investment targets. So in that way, we have a positive impact, hopefully, as well.
So we saw a lot of companies come to New York this year for Climate Week, which is organised by the Climate Group. How important is it to get the business community together and for them to set out a really clear vision of what they want from policymakers in terms of climate policy at the COP21 and also to engage other business leaders?
Well, I think it's always been important that the business community speaks out on this topic, but I think it's particularly important now. We're in the run-up to Paris. We know the international policymaking world, the UN, they want to see the business voice there. They want it to be heard. In the past, it maybe hasn't been heard as much as it could have been, but now is the time. So I think it's very important. And I think to go back to your original question, Climate Week is just fantastically positioned to take place at a very, very important time just before the annual conversations, the annual international negotiations. So we're probably, 70 days out or something. So it's really one of those last chances to get the voice out, to make the private sector to make its voice clear on this, that we want to see action from the policymakers. We want to see a comprehensive agreement in Copenhagen. Sorry, not in Copenhagen. We wanted to see it in Copenhagen. We want to see it now in Paris. But we want to see something come out of that. We want to see a solid agreement. We can't deal with uncertainty forever. We need to see progress.
Well, just picking up on that word that you use there, uncertainty, and businesses seem to really require that in order to make the long-term investment decisions. So just how important is it then to have that real clarity and strength of ambition from the policymakers in Paris later this year?
I think that's really important. I mean, we've been talking about having an agreement for years, and we've not managed to see that. We've seen agreements, but they've not really been concrete. So what happens? Companies start making their own minds up about things. They maybe start postponing decisions that they would have otherwise taken. Or they maybe sort of implement an internal price on carbon because no one else is doing it. But there's nothing. Those are smart companies which do that. But there's nothing like having that sort of set down in regulation or legislation to make it clear that the business playing field has changed. We know it's changing, but we need to see that evidence, if you like, coming out of organisations like the UNFCCC. To really make it clear that, yes, we have taken, our political leaders have taken a decision, we're going to move in a new direction. That's what we need to see, and we hope is what we'll see post-Paris.
Mark Way, thank you very much indeed. Speaking to Mark Way there from Swiss Re, he's the head of sustainability for Swiss Re in the Americas. Thanks very much for joining us here at Climate TV. From all of us at the Climate Group, goodbye.